StarCraft 2, before Diablo 3, before World of Warcraft, before their name was even Blizzard, Silicon and Synapse developed console games like Rock and Roll Racing. Originally designed as a follow-up to RPM Racing, a Super NES game which is believed to be the first SNES game actually developed in North America, rather than developed in Japan and localized for the West. Rock and Roll Racing took a more action and sci-fi oriented shift, and before long, publisher Interplay had the idea of adding in licensed music to make a unique experience. In June of 1993, Rock and Roll Racing was released on both Sega Genesis and the Super NES, the Super NES version gaining far more attention for better sound. The sound effects are good, but the variety is very limited. There isn't much in the way of engine sounds, the screeching tire effects get old quickly, and the weapons only have a tiny handful of sound effects themselves. Graphically, the game is pretty pleasing to the eye. Sprites were drawn at several angles, giving them the appearance of a 3D model, as they even appear as spin on some menus within the game. The track designs become increasingly complex, but never overly complicated. Some tracks include jumps and figure-8 type designs where the traffic may crisscross. In the end, unfortunately, the tracks feel repetitive. Even though the game allows you to progress in single-player mode and travel to different planets, the environments change some, but the track designs constantly feel familiar. The gameplay is relatively straightforward, and you're dropped right into the action pretty quickly. You select a driver and a vehicle and begin a race. You'll learn that your vehicle is equipped with weapons like rockets and spike strips, landmines, oil slicks, and more. You may also have the ability to jump or use turbo boosters. The driver you pick doesn't have a large effect on gameplay, but it does give a little bit of help to how your vehicle controls. After a few races, you'll have enough money saved up to go into the garage and upgrade your vehicle. More ammunition, a faster engine, better grip for your tires. There are several aspects of your ride you can enhance. The game controls very similarly to titles like RC Pro-Am. The camera angle is stationary at an overhead isometric view, and you steer your vehicle left or right using either the D-pad or the L and R buttons on the SNES controller. Try to avoid your opponent's weapon fire and hazards on the track, pick up bonus items along the way, and try to finish first. Still, when you're playing a game called Rock and Roll Racing, you expect it to be about the music, right? When I was a young kid who rented this game from the local shop, I thought it was awesome to have iconic and familiar rock songs accompanying my destructive racing game. It was just a cool combo. Unfortunately, over time, you begin to realize that there are only 5 songs, which isn't a bad variety in most cases, but when the game wants you to complete 10 or more races on a single circuit before you can advance to the next level, and another 10 or so before you can advance to the next planet, the songs begin to repeat very early on, making the game a little less exciting to mull through. The 5 songs were arranged very well, however, and they sound great in the game. The 5 songs you'll hear are Born to be Wild, Bad to the Bone, Paranoid, the Peter Gunn theme, which I previously discussed in the Spy Hunter episode 14, and probably the least well-known of the bunch today, Highway Star, an album opening track from Deep Purple. The songs included in the game aren't just influenced by classic rock songs, but are, in fact, according to the instruction manual, fully licensed songs, which explains why the game doesn't ever appear in any re-release collections, because the music licenses have ran out. A demo released by Blizzard in recent years replaced the music with generic MIDI rock tunes. As always though, we're here to seek out any story in Rock and Roll Racing. By now, you know the place I like to start to find the backstory is in the instruction manual. Wanted, a few good heroes. So you want to be a rock and roll star? Do you have the nerves to race against the best? We have a fine tradition here at Flip Johnson Racing School, a tradition of losing drivers who ease up on the gas pedal just a little too early. Then kapow, they're out. That's right, not since Flip Johnson won the Indianapolis Super Cup back in 2911 have we had a winning ticket. What makes you think you'll win? You know who else will be racing against you? Criminals, machines, geniuses, and the Lizard Prince of Bogmire, Rage Ward himself. Oh, very well, kid. You're in. We're counting on you. Good luck. You're gonna need it. The history of rock and roll racing. The first automobile race was held in France in 1894, 7 years after the first car was made by Herr Daimler and Herr Benz of Germany. They made the first combustion engine used in cars of the late 19th, 20th, and early 21st centuries. One of Daimler's daughters was named Mercedes. Together, the engineers made Mercedes-Benz, still a mark of quality in the 30th century. In these automobile races, men wanted to test their wits, skill, and machines against each other, where only the best survived. Old nations like Germany, England, France, and the United States began holding regular races to celebrate the automobile, the new standard for transportation. When mankind discovered intelligent life on Bogmire in the year 2833, it started a craze like nothing ever seen before. The Saurians on Bogmire started racing with all sorts of souped-up cars to classic rock and roll music from the planet Earth. The idea caught on, and the Rock and Roll Racing Commission was formed. They're responsible for the rules, regulations, and fun of rock and roll racing. The first race was held in 2911, 1 millennium after the Indianapolis 500 began, so they named the grand prize the Indianapolis Super Cup. Flip Johnson from Terra won the first complete rock and roll race with his brand of nitrous oxide called Lightning Nitro. It was an upset since on the 3-race tour, Dangbar of Bogmire was clearly in the lead. Dangbar threatened to eat Flip if he competed again, so Flip opened a school of driving on Terra, his home planet, and retired from racing. Now, of course, rock and roll racing is the most watched sport in the universe. An estimated 7.8 billion people from 17 planets tune in regularly to see the modern-age demolition derby. Rock and Roll Racing's manual paints an extremely vivid picture, and at first the game makes you feel like you're about to enter an in-depth universe filled with dozens of unique planets, even giving you several cool characters to choose from. As you progress through the game, you meet new characters, several of which have backstories defined in the manual. You continue through new tracks and experience the races with new vehicle types and in unique environments. But in the game itself, there isn't much of a story. Not even the story of a racer working his way to the championship, or a driver trying to triumph over a rival. Nothing. Not even cliches, just advancement via these interplanetary travel cutscenes and a slight change of backdrop. This seems to be a theme for rock and roll racing, a lack of variety. The track environments change, but the layouts feel the same. The weapons might say plasma rifle or rocket, but it behaves the same. The cars may look different, but they pretty much control the same. The sound effects are extremely limited, and you hear the same sounds over and over. And even the music, the titular aspect that makes this game different from other action arcade racing games, very quickly becomes monotonous. Given the amount of effort to develop a backstory for the game, I'm disappointed to see that the game didn't capitalize on greater story arcs. How can I get to know the driver I selected? Why don't we know more about the 17 planets? Just what year is it now? And when you say that the races are happening with Earth rock and roll music, is it being blasted into the driver's vehicle? Played at the racetracks? I just feel like there's so much more to know and understand. Maybe your character could be the descendant of Flip Johnson or another famous racer. Although developing an immersive world seems something the developer who would become Blizzard would later be widely known for, I'm afraid that Rock and Roll Racing tried a little too hard to emphasize rock and ended up rolling right past our story so far. Thank you one and all for watching episode number 29 of Our Story So Far.tv. If you want to check out some of our episodes, every episode is archived over at ourstorysofar.tv in perfect 1080p quality. And if you want to talk to me, I'm pretty much always on Twitter at NewAngel, that's Nuangel. Likes, comments, subscriptions, and of course sharing always goes a long way. I really appreciate all of that. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. Until then, take care of yourself.